Hi guys, I'm Chris,
And I'm Mike.
and welcome back to this week's No Limits, a Mitch Rapp podcast. How you doing this week, Mike?
I'm doing good. It's nice to catch up with you and play some golf. What day was that?
Sunday.
Sunday we did that? Yep. That was awesome. That was fun.
I picked your ass up. We went golfing near my parents' house. It was fun. We even recorded a nice little podcast, the two of us, recounting our Chris and Mike's tales from the golf course. I think that's our new series. We have the author series. Now we have the tales from the golf course series.
Don't forget Rap on Rap, our patron-only series.
And Rap on Rap.
So, are you serious? Should I take that recording from the golf course and put it on our feed, or should I make it a Rap on Rap? What do you think?
I think you could do like a mini version on our feed, and then do the full version for the patrons only. You know, the
right.
OnlyFans.
Either
OnlyFans get a little bit extra.
a little extra, huh?
We should start a Mitch Rapp OnlyFans. Be just pictures of Dylan O'Brien, you know.
Though you remind me, speaking of different online platforms.
Well, I don't know where you're going with that one.
Well, let's transition here. There is a Reddit giveaway. So if you were not fortunate enough to win a copy of Enemy at the Gates through the Mitch Rapp Ambassador Program, we were authorized to give away one copy to a podcast listener. And we are going to choose that listener through the Mitch Rapp subreddit, which is a discussion board and community forum about basically any topic. Well, we run the Mitch Rapp subreddit. So head on to reddit.com, search up Mitch Rapp. If you post on the page, we will enter your name. Next week, we'll be picking the winner of an advanced copy of Enemy at the Gates.
Yes, and we have our own copies. We can't be ambassadors because we're technically media. We're media. Media in quotation marks, but it's good to have that copy. I've already started to dig in. It's no spoilers here, but I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah, and I'll reiterate as well, we will absolutely not spoil that book. We may talk about it, we may discuss what's going on in the world of rap fandom, but we won't spoil the book or the plot here on the podcast. So you are good until September 14th, mid-late September, when we drop our Enemy at the Gates podcasts.
Yes, but be on the lookout. We're going to do some road to, just like we did Road to Total Power, we're going to do some Road to Enemy at the Gates. Sort of, I'm going to recap what happened last year and speculate on what's going on. I think we're going to record those soon before we actually read the book, so we don't get any sort of biases going on here.
Right.
But, just talk about what we know from
Total Power
what's been released, and also and from Total Power, of course. So, and talk about the cover, because you've sort of gone on about this cover, how much you like it.
I do.
I
really do.
It's definitely top 5.
Yeah. So. I think we'll have to just kind of revisit Total Power. And I don't think Kyle was necessarily as strong as Vince in tying books together and having, sprinkling breadcrumbs about what's to come. I think Vince really pulled that off, and it was an inherent part of his craft. I think Kyle a little less so, not in a negative way at all. I just it's less his style, I think, to link the books together. But we'll see what we can dig up from Total Power, and if there are any kind of missing links that we think will be followed up upon.
But that could be different, because he did mention that this next trilogy was going to be a 3-book arc.
True.
So we might be heading into book 1 of something that is going to affect the plot's going to affect the next 3 books. So
I sense something big. I am not basing that on anything.
I sense something huge too.
I haven't read anything. Right, something big's coming. I really believe that. I think something with rap. I just have personally.
A huge feeling about that.
Yep.
So we'll see. We will see.
We'll see. We shall see. Some of you guys listening already know.
Yeah.
The ambassadors among us. All right. Well, that takes us to today's podcast, picking up from last week with Killshot Part 2. And Chris, do you know what I like to do every time I read a good book?
No, I don't, Mike. What do you
I like to review that book in the form of a limerick. funny story about this limerick.
Give it to me.
This was concocted in about the 2 minutes before we started podcasting.
Yeah, so disclaimer warning, we were originally supposed to record a different podcast tonight, but we decided to switch it up, and now we're recording our part 2. We had the notes, obviously. No, we're not like doing this off the dome, but we didn't have the limerick, so... Or, well, I say we, like I helped you at all. Your limerick, you didn't have your limerick, so you did it off the dome, and I have to say it's pretty good. So
yeah, I think I came up with this thing just off the cuff, so this is the closest you'll get to, a free verse, or what do you call it, freestyle limerick.
Spoken
word. Here we go. A book dominated by little action. Only 2 scenes that really gain traction. Plot lines get twisted, and characters get mixed in. What will happen to Rapp and Greta's attraction?
Yeah, that really sums up like the second half of this book, where we have a lot of these plot lines that are very left unattended to, and that it's crying for a third novel. Crying.
I think we're going to pick up there naturally in our discussion today from last week. Last week, we had a bunch of loose ends that we see as an opportunity, that a third book in the trilogy or more, right? It could have been more than a third. Who knows what Vince would have done. But whatever that hinge is between Killshot and Transfer of Power, when we come back to a mature, seasoned Mitch Rapp, I think we have a few more little hints here of what goes on in that in-between time. So I think that'll be a theme today.
Yeah, definitely. The theme today is loose ends, and I think we're going to spend the bulk of our time first sort of talking about the 2 scenes that sort of dominate the second half of this novel, and then finally, like, just wrapping up with discussing, speculating what Vince could want to have done with, where our characters are left off after this novel. So we left off last time by talking about, we purposely didn't talk about the backstory of Victor, Chet Bramble. We get a nice chapter in the first half that discusses him and his background, and he seems to be the main, would you say the main focus, besides Rapp and his, like, trying to clear his name? Like, Victor is the main focus, or the main plot character of the second half of this novel, right?
Right. I think the same way American Assassin in some ways was a Stan Hurley story as a secondary character to Mitch, I think this book, Killshot, is a Chet Bramble story, Victor's real name, secondary to Mitch. And because of that, Vince wants to flesh out his backstory. And Chris, you might have remembered the details better than me, but kind of a rough around the edges as a kid, like to get himself in trouble, quick to anger, I would say.
Quick to anger. He has a soft spot. His brother is disabled, or obviously has something wrong with him, and he obviously is very protective of him. So Vince adds that sort of element of, kindness, I guess. But then he quickly sort of follows that up by saying, when he attacks like the first kid that makes fun of his brother, Victor says he enjoyed that. It's not just like, Mitch sort of standing up for somebody, like, because Mitch, I think, is it Mitch that stands up for his little brother? Yeah, Mitch stands up for Steven.
Yep, on the baseball
It's almost
field.
like
remember that story?
Very similar. They both have similar, like, stories, but where Mitch is not vindictive or doesn't take pleasure in beating up these other kids, Victor does,
Right.
And, he's being put through all these things. He gets picked up as like, oh, let's channel that anger into wrestling. And then his father's like, well, if you're not going to, go to college, then you're going to go in the military. You're going to do something. So he puts him in the military. He excels in the military. I think he's in Delta Force, right?
Right.
And gets kicked out of Delta Force because he goes to a bar and picks on the wrong colonel who knows, like, how to counteract. I think the guy says he's some sort of martial arts. Gets himself locked in the stockade and is about to go to prison, but this guy knows his CO, and the CO knows Stan Hurley, who is looking for, a character like this to undergo some things. And it's interesting that later on in the novel, Vince has Stansfield a couple different times say that, the CIA is not for the Boy Scouts. The Orion team is not for the Boy Scouts, right? That's the FBI. We need people that we use people that have, questionable morals, but not as questionable as Victor. Like, he's the extreme. It's like finding that fine line of someone who's willing to break the rules,
right,
but not completely obliterate the rules.
That's perfectly said. And that's why, like, Doc Lewis comes in, and you get the sense that Doc Lewis was never completely on board with Victor being Hurley's top recruit, but Hurley had so much sway, and Hurley's history with Stansfield, Hurley was going to get his guy, who he saved, right? Chet is sitting about to go into a prison cell, probably going to be court-martialed for this incident at the bar, and Hurley basically is his savior. And so Hurley has him like a dog, on a leash, responding to his every whim. He quite literally saved this guy's life by getting him out of a very long sentence. But Doc Lewis is kind of uncomfortable with that, and by the end of this book, Doc Lewis is going to go so far as to tell Stansfield, we got to eliminate Victor.
Yeah, like, that was kind of crazy. He's like, Stansfield even recalls Doc Lewis hadn't said those words in a long time. His recommendation,
right?
And he said this was the Green Beret coming out in him,
right?
To his duty. He saw that this guy needed to be eliminated, and I think it also shows that. And I think Fournier sort of echoes this in one of the chapters where he mentions that the fact that he's able to get all this information shows that Stan and Thomas are slipping. I think that Hurley thinking that he can control. Sometimes I get confused with Stan and Stansfield and Hurley and Tom. Sorry.
Right.
So, but the fact that Stan Hurley is slipping a little bit, getting older, because he thinks he can control Victor. He thinks he's seen this person before. He knows what he's capable of. He knows he can control him, but he can't. He really can't.
Yeah. And you mentioned the psychology, so he thinks he can control him, but listen to this quote about who Victor or Chet Bramble really is. And we're going to get to the action scene here in a minute, but just listen to this as the aftermath of this scene that involves Victor. Vince writes, quote, Bramble did what he did often in the aftermath of a near-death experience. He began to laugh. Not a giggle or a chuckle, but a belly-splitting roar, a release of tension and an absolute euphoric embrace of victory. He was the king of the hill, the last man standing, a man among children. 5 bullets, 5 bodies. Shit, Bramble said. They should write a song about me. That's no good.
No.
Hurley might think he has him on a leash, but a guy who's like that, when he's in the field, that leash is going to be torn off, and this guy's going to go buck wild eventually.
Yeah, and I guess we can just get right into the scene, right? Picking up from when we left off, Rapp is setting up this whole... He's contacted Irene. Irene says, don't go to the safe house because she knows Victor's watching it, right? Stands over there, whatever. Be safe. I'm coming to get you. But Rapp is thinking, all right, someone has turned on me. There's a leak somewhere. I'm going to set up a plan where I'm going to send someone in to the safe house and see how they react,
A decoy.
And he's not thinking that they're going to kill him. He's thinking that they're going to, he wants to see if they're going to take him down harshly to interrogate him or take him down softly to interrogate him, But I think what Vince really shows is the duality between these two characters, how they're both have very similar skills in the sense of being top-notch assassins, but Victor is just Rapp is so light years ahead of Chet or Victor, whatever you want to call him, intellectually, because there's this whole inner monologue where Victor is talking about why he doesn't understand why Irene is involved, and like the relationship between Irene and Hurley, and why they like each other, and the relationship between Stansfield and Hurley and Stansfield and Irene. And he's so dense that he can't figure out why they're intertwined, when Rapp knows. He's deduced or done the actual work figuring out that Irene's father was friends with them, and that they were all in Beirut, and obviously a big incident happened, and Irene is essentially the niece of both these two characters. To Chet, that never even crosses his mind. He just thinks that she's this annoying girl who's involved and doesn't need to be there. He just brushes her off. When you think about it, she's going to become to be one of the most intellectual characters, like my favorite character actually going forward in this entire series. Right.
She can replace Stansfield. That's huge.
It's huge, and she's an awesome CIA director. Obviously has her flaws.
Chet Chet
doesn't. He's blinded by everything.
He thinks he can actually drive a wedge between Hurley and Kennedy, and he thinks if push comes to shove with decisions at Langley, by having Hurley in his corner, he'll be all good. No. Rapp never for a minute thinks he needs Hurley in his corner. He hates the guy. But he does think, when I can trust her, I need Irene in my corner, and I need that mysterious guy who's pulling the strings, Stansfield, in my corner. Where Chet Bramble doesn't give a fuck about any of them, and actually sells out and becomes a traitor by trying to take down Stansfield and Kennedy. I mean, I don't know if you want to get into that, but let's stick to this.
There's something I want to touch on about that later, because I don't think again, Vince doesn't show that he's intellectual enough to actually. It's not fitting of his character to actually do that in the future. But anyways, yeah, and he even says Stansfield needs to retire and Hurley needs to replace him. We need more people like Hurley being in charge. When in Rapp's mind, it's complete opposite. I don't know. I just really enjoy the duality of these two characters they're similar, yet at their core they're different. And Vince picks it apart and shows it to us in various cases. And you mentioned that laughing, right? He kills this. He ends up killing this fake Rapp, which Rapp is very shook when this happened. He realizes that he sent an innocent man or someone in. This guy's a drug dealer, so he feels guilty for it.
Yeah,
but Victor is so stupid that he doesn't even go and idea the guy that he just popped in the head. He just assumed that this is Rapp going into the safe house and shoots him in the back of the head, and then starts laughing ha ha ha, I got Rapp. Doesn't even bother to turn over their body and see that this is not Rapp.
Yeah, he's even dragging him into the van or something and doesn't. Yeah,
and then he immediately switches to all right, how do I cover this up? Oh, and now I'm going to kill these.
Oh, he kills the two cops. Was it cops?
First, he kills the two the other Delta people,
the DGSE,
and then he
kills
the DGSE people. Yep.
Yeah. So he's got 5 dead bodies in the middle of a neighborhood in Paris, and then he kills his 2 partners. You're right. His 2 partners are questioning him because Hurley just gave the stand down order. Thankfully, Irene, Stansfield, and Lewis came to the conclusion that Rapp probably hasn't turned, that they can still bring Rapp in amicably, and so they do convince Hurley to shut down the operation to eliminate or chase Rapp. Hurley contemplates for a little bit, does give the order, so Hurley did follow the wishes of Kennedy, but Victor goes off reservation. Even he denies orders from Hurley, and the funny thing is, the whole time he's thinking, oh, I could just make up a story. He thinks he's such a good liar. He can think of every scenario where he can have a watertight story of why, he killed this guy. Rapp tried to shoot him. Rapp killed his 2 partners. These 2 random agents came onto scene. Rapp killed them also, but I was the hero who survived and was able to eliminate Rapp. And what a bogus story. The forensics. The analysis, and knowing lurking in the background is this Neville character, this really competent police lieutenant, or commander. She's going to put the pieces together. Anybody with half a brain is going to put the pieces together at this crime scene. But Victor just peels out thinking, he's a G. Well, Rapp does chase him, but Rapp gets a couple of shots off at him, but he, by and large, gets away unharmed.
Yeah, and it's after this scene, it's sort of the mission is to figure out from Stansfield and Hurley and Irene's side did Rapp kill these people? Is Victor lying or is he lying? And the thing that saves him, right, is the fact that he treats the one DGSE agent and those reporters, which came back for a chapter. It's interesting. You mentioned this last pod, these extra characters. Even Neville, if you think about her, she's being played up to be like this important character in the first half of the book, with doing these investigations, and then like her last chapter is just doing that press conference where she says that Fournier is setting her up, and then we get no resolution with her again. And then like those two reporters who Hurley has on his retainer, like they're just there and witnesses, and that's what helps corroborate Rapp's story and shows in Stansfield's mind that Rapp is a good guy and on their side. I don't know, like there's a lot of different plot elements that don't really get wrapped up in this, pardon my pun, don't get fulfilled in the second half of the book. And then there's even more glaring plot holes that we're going to talk about those in probably at the end of this podcast that are just blatantly left open because they are supposed to be completed in the next novel or next couple novels, right?
Yeah, but there's one other piece of evidence while we're at the crime scene, is that Greta watched the whole thing. Right. And in Stansfield's mind, being so close to the Ohlmeyer family, Greta's a very trustworthy source, right? Like her observations of this whole event and knowing what Rapp did to try to, stem the bleeding, quite literally, patching up this agent in the street, trying to get Victor. Greta corroborates that as well, and that's going to be a clinching piece of evidence for Stansfield that Rapp is innocent and actually the good guy here.
Yeah. What did you think of that whole scene where like Rapp leads them on this like? I thought it was personally like one of my favorite chapters where Rapp is. They take he only wants Irene again. Just playing from like these movies I've seen, specifically like the Bourne Identity or the Bourne Supremacy, whatever. He's leading them to the city. He's watching them. He leads them to the apartment that he was watching Victor's thing, and then they're like there, and he's talking to them on the phone, and then he sneaks in, and then I can just see that in a movie where they're there, they're listening on the phone. He like sneaks in behind them, and then like finally like his next phrase is not on the phone, but like right behind them, and they turn around, and he's there with a gun. Like that's fucking awesome. That was awesome.
That was really cool. It would work better as a movie. It was pretty cool. But the whole time I asked myself, this whole thing just went down, and he literally tells them to meet at the apartment building right where all the blood is from this decoy guy Luke getting his head busted open.
Wouldn't there be like cops still there?
Even if, there'd be cops, there'd be a huge crime scene, there'd be the French version of the FBI or whatever. And also, Stansfield and Kennedy would know not to be caught dead somewhere like that. A reporter, someone who recognizes any of them, or just trying to get into this apartment building where the crime just happened.
Across the street from where the crime just happened. Like, they'd be spotted. They'd be spotted, though. Because the whole thing is that they're trying not to be spotted by the GGSE. And this huge crime scene where, like, at one point, Victor, like, breaks out a submachine gun. So, like, there's bullet like shell casings everywhere. This is within hours. It's not within days. It'd be one thing if it was days,
Right. It's that day. There'd be a huge perimeter. Yeah. Kennedy wouldn't want to be caught dead there, or Stansfield, or Rapp.
No, I didn't think about that. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, that one just threw me for a loop, if I'm going to be honest. All right, well, let's get into what caused this whole shindig in the first place, because there's Cook.
Yes.
You remember his first name? He's Paul. That insignificant a character. I don't even know.
Paul Cook.
Paul Cook. So Paul Cook works at the CIA.
He's the deputy director.
Right, deputy director. Is disheartened
He wants to be the director.
Yeah, by what Stansfield's doing, and there's an opening in the directorship. Well, they know it's going to come down to either Stansfield and his team or Paul Cook and his team as the deputy director. And it seems Paul Cook is a little nervous that Stansfield is going to get the nod. Well, the Secretary of State summons Paul Cook, wants to use his sway to have a guy in the agency to get the upper hand and play hardball with intelligence. And who knows, maybe that's looking at a run towards president one day, right? Like angling to get his people in the right position to advocate for him. I'm not saying the CIA influences elections, but he'd at least have his people in the right places. Let's put it that way. And so he kind of meets up with him, and the Secretary of State says, "Can you get rid of Stansfield for me? You'll be my guy." And Cook says, "I'll do it." What do you think is the link between Paul Cook and Victor? Because the way Paul Cook gets influence and what brings him into the French storyline is that he has Stansfield's hit list. He knows Stansfield is running a secret team, the Orion team, and they have a list of people that they're picking off, that they're assassinating. And if that shit goes public, Stansfield's career is over, right? That's an assassination program run by the United States government. So Paul Cook and the Secretary of State ready to blow it up. What do you think about that whole storyline?
Well, what I'm taking is there's a couple things that are not like said on the actual page, because it definitely seems that Paul Cook was setting this up before his meeting with the Secretary of State. So he had these ambitions, knowing that the directorship was empty. You know, he reaches out to us. Essentially, Fournier seems to be like his equivalent, or Stansfield equivalent. I guess the same level in the GGSE, and he's starting to align various groups with himself across the world. Meanwhile, he knows that, all right, Stansfield has set up this team. Let me try to take out the leader of this team. I wonder at what point he finds out that Rapp is, because he obviously knows at the very end, we find out that he's going to give over this information, but he doesn't give over that information in the beginning because the assassins don't know it. So does he not know it? Does he not know it, or does he purposely not tell them? That's my question.
Well,
when does he find out that Rapp is in charge of the Orion team?
So Victor is the one feeding the information to Paul Cook.
Right.
Maybe Victor doesn't even know. He knows Rapp, right, because he broke his arm at the farm, but maybe Victor doesn't know that he's the one. He's like the tip of the spear.
Right.
For these assassinations.
Until he has to go get him.
Until he gets called in. Right. Until Hurley and Victor are sent to Paris to track Rapp. That's when Victor finds out that Rapp was the one leading the Orion team and, doing the assassinations, that he then passes that on. He kind of passes on to Cook. Hey, I'm being sent to Paris. It's Rapp. We're tracking him. Here's the intel. But
my problem with that whole side of the story, right, is that, okay, it's fine if, Cook is this, Vince is sort of showing him as the seedy politician, right? It's not Victor's MO to reach out to Paul Cook. There needed to be some sort of explanation between how they met up, why he's talking to Paul Cook, why he leaked these secrets, because Victor just seems like the kind of guy that wants to kill people, like that he would have no problem with this hit list. Right. So why is he telling Cook? Unless because he truly doesn't want to get rid of Stansfield, but in the chapters where we're in his mind, he never says that. He says that he should be replaced, but not like that directly. You know what I mean?
You're so right. So there needs to be a scene. I wish you cut out there's 15 to 20% of this book I think could have and should have been cut out.
Yeah.
Like Hurley at one point meets with the executive producer of Le Mans.
Yeah. And like his fling from a long time ago.
It's kind of crazy.
Throwaway chapter. It's a throwaway chapter.
Right. Of course Hurley has a relationship with her. I'm not surprised by that, but why are they meeting? And then these two other journalists that Hurley's meeting with, kind of cool, maybe. But what if you replace that with Cook approaching Victor and saying, we read the reports of this guy breaking your arm. this guy Rapp. We read the reports of Hurley aging. We know he's been your mentor, but you gotta understand as well that he's on his way out the door. We want to promote you, Victor.
Right.
What if Paul Cook says, I will make you the next Hurley. You get to run a team of assassins that you pick. I feel like Victor would be like, oh, hell yeah, I get to pick some buddy assassins to go off and kill more people and greenlight more of my missions to assassinate people. I feel like Paul Cook must have dangled, you could be my Hurley. I'll be the Stansfield to your Hurley.
Yeah, because it seems like Cook is trying to turn other people like Fournier.
Yeah.
I want to see him turning Victor.
Working him.
I want to see him trying to be a Stansfield, but he never can be,
Right.
That would make the final scene where Rapp kills him all the more better,
Yeah, that's a missing opportunity. There's so much here that we're spitballing as conjecture. We wish we saw, there could have been. And those maybe were opportunities for the third book. Some that could have been taken in this book, but I think it weakens the integrity of how Killshot holds together, how the storyline holds up in the end, which I think I rarely say about Vince's books, that most of the storylines tie together.
This is probably the worst book in terms of, because no other book have we like conjectured this much about like scenes and what we wanted to see. Like maybe here or there, but like there's a lot here. There's a lot here.
All right. And plot holes. We might find one minor thing, one storyline that doesn't check out. I feel like here it's just kind of compounding or snowballing. And we'll get to ratings soon, but you mentioned one kind of final action scene. There wasn't really any other action besides Victor's killing of these five innocent people, until we get to the very end.
Yeah.
Which it's kind of where it's all attempting to come together. So Fournier is kind of pissed off. He's the French intelligence officer who's trying to kind of clear the air and get rid of this mess because it's really affecting, because he's involved, right? He's in bed with Max and Samir, who are the terrorists. So Fournier is kind of upset that the police chief, this lady, is gathering evidence that seems to point to his interference with the investigation. And, now we're up to 14 murders pretty much in the span of a few days in Paris. One of them, a Libyan oil minister. Like, this is a public story. And so Fournier wants
a DGSE agent.
And now an agent, right, exactly. Fournier wants to get control of this. Neville is not basically playing along because she wants the truth. He basically threatens her and says, she's a stalker. She's in love with me. She's a jealous ex. Gets a restraining order against her and basically tries to, in the public arena, shame her, to discredit her. And so anything she ends up uncovering won't matter, won't see the light of day, and she can't continue the investigation. Kind of another side plot?
Kind of, yeah. And that's what I said earlier, how this, she sort of, her story wraps up by her doing this press conference, airing all that out, and then we never, we just, the next time we see Fournier is he's with Cook, committing treason, and Ridley has now rigged there was also when did Stansfield tell Ridley to bug this room? Yeah. He told him to sweep it, in terms of because he's obviously the deputy director is coming over. We need to make sure no one else is listening in, but we also want us to listen in.
Yeah.
I guess we should have known that based on the chapter between Stansfield and Cook, where Stansfield says this guy is a pawn of the
right
Secretary of State, so I can't trust him. So
that leaves a lot of work though to us, the reader, to have to kind of figure that out on the fly.
I agree. There's a lot in that last chapter that we have to sort of put together in our mind,
right?
Of how this all came together, and then boom, we get Rapp just walking in, killing everybody. Except for a key player, which one of the plot points that we're gonna talk about right now or in the next second, and then making it look like they turned on each other.
Right. But he finds a dossier in this hotel room that Cook was passing to Max Vega, who's funding the terrorism,
who was on the
Samir,
list,
and Fournier, who's the intelligence officer. Yeah, Vega's the next one on the list. That's how Rapp identifies the guy's like, oh shit, this was next on my list. And the dossier is about him. It's his photo, it's his story, and basically he was going to be the next target for the terrorists. And so Rapp says, if I don't kill these guys here and now, I'm dead meat because they're coming after me anyway, so I better kill them now. Kind of cool that he knows the room is bugged. He doesn't want anybody to know he was there and was responsible for these killings. He wants it to look like they turned. He doesn't make a sound. And I think he even chooses not to use a weapon that they can identify. Like he has a different weapon.
He puts one of the weapons in one hand, grabs another weapon, shoots that weapon. So they'll see like multiple weapons being fired in each other's hands. It's kind of cool how he just sets it up on the fly.
I think he took one of those off the bodyguard. I think that was it. He took the bodyguard's weapon, made it look like he shot one. Yeah.
So, yeah, and then he finds his other dossier in Cook's jacket that was of Hurley. So he was going to sell Hurley out too. Yeah, this Paul Cook guy, not a good guy. Not a good guy at all.
Yeah. Well, here's kind of the payoff. When we learn what the third man in the terrorist party was doing, he was the escape route. There was a guy prepping a plane as soon as Max Vega and Samir and Fournier wrapped up this meeting. They were going to get out of Dodge. And Rafik had the plane ready to go.
Conveniently.
And Rafik was not at this meeting.
Yes. And so I guess let's just jump right into our plot holes that need to be wrapped up.
Or loose ends. Let's go back to loose ends.
The biggest one, I think, is Rafik. And, so Rafik is dropped once in the meeting at the Sacre-Cœur, and then again here.
Now.
Where he's the only guy not at this meeting, not killed by Rapp. He's obviously now going to be super pissed off that Rapp killed Samir and killed Vega.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't, in my mind, for some reason, I thought we got a scene with Rafik and Mitch in one of these two novels. And like we got the scene where he gives Mitch his scar, because this is something that's brought up in Transfer of Power, brought up in other novels, It doesn't happen. I guess it was fan fiction in my mind that I was recalling. Yeah, I think that was probably going to be the plot of the third novel, was this whole Rafik and Rapp like trying to come at each other. Like, what do you think that was going to be like, Mike?
All right. So you and I, before we started recording, were kind of thinking ahead of what this story could look like. And we had some pretty cool ideas. I like this one. So Rafik is waiting at the airport for his friends to jump ship and get out. And when they don't come, Rafik's waiting an hour, 2 hours. I think there had to be some emergency protocol that these guys were using, whereby Rafik either leaves without them and wants to investigate what happened, but more likely that before he goes, the protocols had some sort of Dropbox or some meeting place. And maybe Paul Cook and Fournier left an extra copy of those dossiers. So somehow Rafik finds out Rapp and Hurley were the guys responsible for this killing. Right. And that is happening at the same time where Rapp somehow gets intel that there was a third guy who wasn't present at this meeting, who was also responsible for these killings and knows he's on the loose. So I think somehow they each get intel that the other was responsible, and it becomes a cat and mouse game. I would love a book, kind of like what Kyle does with Grisha Azarov way later in the series.
Right.
A cat and mouse, Rapp versus these, and they're both kind of looking for each other, and they both know they're looking for each other.
And at some point we get a scene where Rafik gives him a scar,
Right, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, it seems to be like what Vince is trying to set up here, and yeah. I really wish we got to see something like that.
How about this one? Greta.
Because that's the other big plot hole.
Because in the last scene, Rapp basically knows Stansfield's never going to let Rapp see Greta again. Like, he's going to call Herr Ohlmeyer, and like that's not going down. But here's what Rapp says, quote, "His thoughts turned to Greta. Stansfield would take care of her, and he would also do his best to make sure that Rapp never saw her again. but Rapp knew he would have to risk seeing her just one more time. He would never forgive himself if he didn't.
So I guess that's, people who are wondering where Greta is and why she's not in future novels. Like, I guess that could be explained away in terms of, in the next novel, maybe Rapp only sees her one time and says goodbye, and then that's it. Or she dies.
He doesn't.
Or he doesn't. Or purposely doesn't. Or what I would like is the book starts off with him just watching her, like somewhere from afar, seeing what she's doing, but he never makes contact with her. And there's some sort of internal monologue where he's like, I can't, I just have to let it be. And then he just goes away. He goes off trying to find Aziz. Like, I would like some sort of closure there.
I'm so with you. I was just thinking, what if Stansfield and Ohlmeyer are concocting ways, the entire book, they're coming up with ways to get Rapp to stay away from Greta. Like, it's working, Rapp doesn't have time, Rapp can't meet up with her, there's fights about it, but Ohlmeyer and Stansfield are doing everything they can to keep Rapp distance from Greta, for her sake. And Rapp doesn't want an ounce of it. Rapp fights it, Rapp does whatever he can, he vows to see Greta one last time, and finally he has the opportunity. Like, let's say he's looking at her on a train platform, the train pulls up, doors open, she boards, and Rapp's about to board too and make this his final chance to say goodbye, and something clicks and he says,
Can't.
I trust Thomas. I trust Ohlmeyer. Maybe they were right this whole time. And Rapp kind of, instead of fighting the tide, he just gets swept away with the ocean and just lets the train doors close and watches Greta leave and vows to himself, I'm never going to put her in danger again. And the only way I can do that is 100% cutting her off. I don't exist to her anymore.
I would like that, and I felt like that would give us good closure with her. Instead of like her dying or some sort of stupid cliche or him like saying goodbye, something like that.
And like the inner monologue can couch it in like, this is Rapp's final step on the training that Stansfield is trying to pass on to him.
Right.
Like Rapp's final jump into, I'm giving up my personal life. Because in Kill Shot and American Assassin,
it's all about that.
Rapp plays along with Kennedy and Stansfield and says like, yeah, a couple of times. But secretly he has his own personal life. He sleeps with Greta, right? He holds back something from Kennedy on the car ride to the farm. Like, he's holding back from them. This is his truly, I'm done trying to play both worlds. I'm 100% committed down this path, and it sucks for me, and I'm never going to have a normal relationship ever again. But this is the moment where he says, like, I'm sacrificing myself for my job.
Right. No, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. And one other thing with Rafik, there's this 2 times where Stephen Rapp is brought up, and I just think that maybe he plays a role in the next book where maybe Rafik like kidnaps him or something,
Yep.
There's 2
I even have the quote.
Purposeful name drops of Stephen Rapp that just seem out of place.
Right. So it was early on in the book, we're getting like a psychological profile of Rapp. And it says, quote, his existence had become a lie within a lie. His own brother had not a clue what he was up to, nor did any of his friends. Over the last several years, he had distanced himself from all of them. The kid who had grown up in Virginia, played lacrosse for Syracuse, was gone, replaced by a killer. There was no melancholy or regrets. He was on a path he had chosen. So Vince deliberately wrote that he cut out his brother. That was part of his, his sacrifice. And then at the end, so that was the beginning of the book. Then the end of the book, Paul Cook passes on to the terrorists, quote, Rapp, he has a mother who is terminally ill, but he has a brother who could be used as leverage. Right. Like, it's a throwaway line. He has a brother who could be used as leverage. That had to be part of the next storyline.
It had to be. It set it up perfectly.
Like, how is Rafik going to go on his own and get to Rapp? Rafik's got no leverage. He's not even that high up of a guy in the hierarchy. He just lost Max Vega, who was the financier, so Rafik is short on resources. he's going to have to get desperate and use whatever angle he can, and that might just be a family member.
Right. And I think the final loose end is Victor. You know, I think Victor has to come back in the third novel somehow. He's obviously, you know, super paralyzed or super, pissed off.
He got shot times?
Once in the leg, once in the elbow,
twice
in the balls.
In the balls, yeah.
You know, so I feel like there has to be some sort of, Rapp thinks he's gone, but he gets out somehow, and has a vengeance for Rapp somehow.
I don't know. I read that when Rapp goes into the room and I think he promised Doc Lewis he won't kill Victor.
He wouldn't kill him.
But he shoots him like 8 times, and then he walks out and leaves the mess to Hurley. He goes, "Here, Hurley, this is your guy, your mess." I see that as Victor's done. But you're right. It's like a movie. If you don't see them die on screen,
right,
you never know if they're dead.
Then they're set up to come back. I don't know. Just for me, it felt like he purposely didn't kill Rapp. Rapp didn't kill Victor because he wanted to bring him back. I don't know, but maybe not.
I don't think the way I see it is Victor's done. He's shot up enough, right? I think he's just going to bleed out, or Hurley's going to put the finishing touches on him, because we got a huge backstory. And like I said last time,
right?
It's the Book of Flynn. It's Flynn Commandment number 4. If you get a backstory, you're killing the character. So I think Victor's done. I don't think he had a role beyond, but I could be wrong.
Could be.
Kyle can prove me wrong.
Yeah. We need that book, Kyle. We need it.
Hey, so we covered a lot of ground, a lot of territory, but we did not give our final ratings or discuss the covers. So let's wrap up with that.
All right.
Give us your ratings. What'd you think?
My winner of this novel is definitely Rafiq Aziz, because I feel like he's perfectly brought into the story and then perfectly set up to have his own standalone novel in the next one. So he's my winner. The loser is all of the plot holes we just discussed. And my rating, I was pretty high on this book going in. We sort of talked about it last pod. Originally, I thought I was going to put it in my top 5 or my top third, but upon completing it, it's not as good as I remembered. It's really good, but it's definitely in like the second tier, and it's only like that way because of some of these things that don't get addressed. So I'm giving it an A-, like a 9, solid 90, which puts it like right, in the middle sort of tier, at the top of the middle tier. But that's my rating, A-, 90.
Okay.
What about you, Mike?
All right. I think I'm going to put my winners and losers together, because the winner is, this was a fantastic setup of what would come next.
It's a great middle book.
Right.
But it's not a middle book because there's no third book.
And that's exactly why it's also my losers, is because so much is brought up with so little closure. It feels like part 1. It feels like, the first act, which, is outside of anybody's control, right? That's just the universe.
Right.
But like you said, Rafiq being brought up was brilliant. Lingering doubts about Greta and what happens to their relationship. I'm interested. And if you're interested, that's a good thing. Just Rafiq operating the background does so much for me. But I want to know, right? Does the Secretary of State get caught?
Right.
Is he going to play a role?
Exactly.
Because he's our villain, right? He's our villain in the U.S. So does the next book has to address that, right? We have a bad guy.
And Paul Cook at the very end sets it up by telling him that Stansfield said something about his wife, and that just feeds into this oh, he's going to be the villain, like a villain going forward.
So the Secretary of State has to be the villain. Does he get linked to Cook in any way that becomes public, or that the CIA finds out? And then I'm wondering about some of these other characters who showed up. Is there any other role for this police commandant, Neville DeFleury, the priest we talked about last time? He has one little scene with Stansfield where we find out they had some history, but once again, it's just a couple of sentences. So winner and loser is both loose ends, but they're loose ends that got my attention. because of that, this book is probably flirting with the bottom third for me.
Wow.
It maybe bottom of the middle of the pack. What do we have? 20 books. It's got to be floating around 15, somewhere in that 15th range.
I have it like closer to 10 to 7 for me.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it could crack like as high as 13 when we finally do this, but it's comfortably there. And because of that, it's a B-. It's an 82%, somewhere in the low. It's in the low 80s. It had some really great things that I want to know more about. It's just a shame that we didn't get them.
If we got that third book and we got everything that we sort of conjectured about, would that change? Would that change this book?
If this ends up at some point in time being part 1 of a part 2 or 3 story, and then link that together with the American Assassin being the prequel to all of this, absolutely, I think it could be a B+ or A- book.
Right.
If some of this stuff is brought to a close.
Right.
All right, but let's change the conversation because this is going to be overwhelmingly positive. How'd you like the covers?
Well, you know how you like to start off your book review with a limerick? Let me start off by saying cover C sucks, but every other cover is really good. Every other cover is really good, and there's a consistent theme, and it looked like the people who came up with the covers actually read what went on in the novel, or at least read the first chapter about Paris.
Right.
Like, we talk about this all the time, how a good cover to us has to be one of two things. It should be something about the book, or it should be something that's inherent to the theme or flavor of the character, like the main character. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to necessarily like have to have a scene of, Irene getting taken, like the one or the motorcade being exploded, but just like something that expresses this genre, and specifically Mitch Rapp, like not just any sort of thriller, but Mitch Rapp-esque. But all of these do a great job. My favorite has to be cover A or cover G, which I'll just give obviously this is not a visual, so I'll give you a description. Cover A has a black and white Eiffel Tower with the kill shot and Vince Flynn in red, and like this sort of like cloud over the city. I really like that. And then in G has the Eiffel Tower, but it has like this sort of nightscape, but it's navy and dark blue and black with kill shot in red, and in the circle you see a little bit of red, and I think also on like the L's you see like some blood. Yeah. I don't know. Those two are really good.
Yep.
What about you, Mike?
I'm gonna 100% agree with you on those two, but I got to get this off my chest. Cover C is terrible, but the color scheme is pretty good.
It's like the best color scheme of a cover C. It's
pretty good.
It just needs an Eiffel Tower in there. Replace the power lines with the Eiffel 100%. Tower, and cover C is a banger.
100%. If this guy in cover C were walking on a bridge like he is in cover B, and the power lines were not there, but the Eiffel Tower was, cover C might just would have had the potential to be my favorite. It's got these blue color schemes with a very ominous sky, almost like the Northern Lights kind of thing.
Right,
and the road is slick and it's reflecting off the road. And then Flynn, do you see how Flynn is in the perfect whites of the cloud?
Yes.
So Flynn stands out because it's in black with the white clouds, and these silvery metallic blues are really cool. But other than that, cover C sucks. Moving on. Cover A is awesome.
Put an Eiffel Tower there.
One thing you didn't mention about cover A, why I really like it, Rapp's perspective after he gets shot. He's literally sitting underneath one of these bridges, patching up his wound. Well, this angle is from under a bridge looking up at the Eiffel Tower around the side of the bridge. Like, I could see Rapp looking at this image as he's patching himself up, and then the sky with these fading grays and whites almost look like you're losing consciousness.
Yeah, like, I agree with you.
this could be Rapp bleeding out or going fuzzy as he's literally looking up at a bridge of Paris or the Eiffel Tower, like with his first bullet wound. That's pretty cool.
Yes, I agree.
And same thing with G. Like you said, the blood on the white letters kill shot seals the deal for me, because the kill shot is Rapp shooting the terrorists. Like the text says, Rapp likes to move in for the kill shot, get nice and close. But Rapp almost got his own kill shot. Like he was hit.
Right.
So I really like the blood on the lettering. But I will say, so that's my gold A, silver G. I'm going to give the bronze medal to H. H to me is pretty baller. It's again this
looking up at the Eiffel Tower.
What's the opposite of bird's eye view? Groundhog view?
I guess.
Look at, maybe I just coined that. Who knows? Looking up at the Eiffel Tower from underneath with a very ominous sky, dark blues in the sky, light blues and whites in the cloud. I really like the angle on H.
Yeah, some of these other ones are pretty good too that also have the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, B. B is a nice nod to A. That's our Running Man, right? Or in this case, Walking Man. That's pretty good for a Walking Man. Running Man cover.
And then D, I like the going for the different color. Like that's a good color scheme with the Eiffel Tower. This like cerulean or light blue, and
with the yellow words
with the yellow kill text. Shot. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. I don't know. Most of these covers are very good. Yeah,
except great covers. The book is a B-. The covers are A+, and cover C is only a D, not a complete F.
Not a complete F. So might be the best showing for our covers so far.
I think overall, this is definitely the best overall cover scheme that we've had. Nice. Good pod, my friend.
That's our book.
That's Killshot. It's done.
All right. So next time when we come to you, we will be bringing you a podcast. Don't quite know what the topic is yet. It'll either be we want to do a Stansfield episode because this is the last novel we're gonna see him in. So we want to give an ode to him. We also have we're trying to line up a couple of author series recordings, bonus pods. So haven't quite decided on that, but we will have a podcast for you next week. So stay tuned for that. Again, we need to thank our patrons, including our special operator, Sherry F., our special agents, George, Matt, Dawn, Dennis, Peggy, Catherine, Ray, Bridget, Jeff, and Mark. Can't say this enough, but please subscribe, rate, review using Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us at mitchrappod.com or on Twitter or Instagram at mitchrappod. And as always, just let Mitch be Mitch. Just a disclaimer, this podcast is not affiliated with Vince Flynn, Kyle Mills, or Simon & Schuster, but thank you to them for bringing us the wonderful world of rap. And the music soundtrack is Guerrilla Tactics by Raphael Crooks.